All right, welcome back to another Discord dashboard tutorial. So this part of the series, we're going to focus on the backend stuff. So we're going to set up the NestJS project, and then we're going to pretty much do everything that we need to do. I have written down everything that we need to pretty much do. It's going to be a lot of stuff, so try not to feel very overwhelmed. If you're confused with anything, I just let you guys know that I do have NestJS tutorials on my channel. I have a beginning tutorial that shows you how to set up NestJS, how to actually create your own controller, create a service, and also shows you how to do unit testing as well as end-to-end testing. There's a lot of stuff. It's all on my channel, so feel free to go check it out. If you've seen my previous tutorials where I used NestJS with Discord OAuth 2 to create Discord dashboards, it's going to look very similar, I promise you. Okay? So anyways, we got a lot of things to set up. So let's go ahead and get started. I do want to mention a couple things before we get started though. You need to make sure you have MySQL installed, and you also need to make sure you have, let's see what else. So MySQL is definitely, you need that. And I think that's probably it. I don't think there's anything else that we need. Okay, the reason why we need MySQL is because, well, first of all, we're using the same database with the Discord bot, so we need to make sure we have that. If we don't have the same databases, you're gonna have some issues. Okay, so yeah, I think MySQL is the only thing that we need to have installed, and that's pretty much it. So assuming that you all already have that installed already because we installed it, or I mean, we went over that very early in the tutorial, we can go ahead and proceed. So let's go ahead and, oh, I forgot. We need to make sure we have the NestJS CLI installed. So if you don't have the NestJS CLI installed, make sure you install it. It's very easy to install. Okay, let me bring this over here. So you can install this using the npm install -g at nestjs/CLI command. And this will install the CLI tool for you globally on your machine. And what this tool allows you to do is you can pretty much create NestJS projects. It'll create a scaffold for you, very similar to create React app. And then you can also do things such as generate controllers, generate services. It does a lot of stuff for you, so I highly recommend you install it to make things so much easier. Okay, I already have it installed already, so I don't need to worry about that. My version is 8.1.6 for the NestJS CLI. Okay, so now that I have it installed, or I already have it installed already, let's go ahead and create a new project. So nest new, we're going to call this Discord dashboard API, and I'll hit enter. So this is going to create the project scaffold for us. For the package manager, I'm going to select yarn. You can select npm if you want to, or pnpm. This will take about a couple seconds to set up. Shouldn't take too long. All right, so that took a little bit more than I expected, but we have our project set up already. So I can go ahead and cd into that repository. All right, so now that we have our project created and we have it opened up in Visual Studio Code, we can go ahead and take a look at the files. But like, again, it's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to go over the files because I have created videos, video tutorials for beginners on learning NestJS. So again, I highly recommend you check that out. I'm going to leave links in the description. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started with our NestJS project, okay? Let me just go ahead real quick. I'm going to commit this to Git. So that way we can pretty much start from scratch. I'm going to also get rid of the README. I'm going to actually write my own README, so don't worry. There'll be instructions on how to set all this up, or set up the project, okay? Or actually, wait, I think I made a mistake. I mean, it's fine. I actually wanted to delete the app controller, but it's okay though. I'm going to delete these three files. So the app controller.spec.ts, app controller ts, and an app service. We're going to delete all three of those because we're not going to need these files anyways. We're going to create our own controller. I'm going to go into app.module.ts, and I'm going to delete these two, and as well as delete this. Okay, cool. Now that we've done that, the very first thing that we'll do is we'll set up the environment variables. That's always a must because we don't want to hard code anything into the app, or at least anything like, secrets and stuff. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and set up environment variables. We need to install a package called at nestjs/config. So this is going to be the configuration package. So let's install that. Perfect. This is going to allow us to set up environment variables. We're going to use a .env file. I'm going to label this as .env.development. Okay. So what I'm going to do is there's a lot of variables that we need to set up. So we're going to go through this one by one. We're going to need, first let's start off with the Discord application credentials. Okay. So we need to go over to our Discord developer portal. And what we need to do is we need to get the application credentials. So if you remember in the Discord bot application, we were working with the Discord bot. Okay, the Discord bot is part of the Discord application. The Discord application, well, I should say this, the Discord application supports the bot as well as OAuth 2 mechanism. So if you want to work on a bot, you can. If you want to set up OAuth 2 to do other things, you can do that as well. So you need to make sure you select the same exact application that you were using for your Discord bot, and we need to copy the necessary credentials. The one credentials that we need, the credentials that we need are the application ID. So we're gonna get that. It's also known as the client ID, so I'm just gonna call it the client ID. And we're gonna paste that right there. The client ID, it's fine if people know it. It's not sensitive information, so you have to worry about it. Okay. We're then going to need the secret. Okay. So the client secret right over here. If you accidentally reveal this, make sure you regenerate it. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put that over here. Okay, and then last but not least, we need a redirect URL. So this redirect URL basically is what Discord is going to redirect the user to upon successful authentication. So remember, the way it works is when you click on that login with Discord button. So let me just show that real quick. So when the user clicks on login with Discord, it's going to take them away from your application, away from your platform, and it's going to navigate them to Discord, right, which is a third-party application. Okay, third-party platform. When you click on that authorize button, it's going to go ahead and attempt to authorize, and if everything's successful, it's going to redirect you to the URL that we set right over here, also known as a redirect. Okay, so we're going to set one up for localhost. So what I'm going to do is the port of our application, we'll probably set the port to, let's see, I want to do ports, I'll do port 3000, actually, I want to do port 4000, we'll do port 4001. Actually, I'll just do port 3001. So the URL is going to be /API/auth/redirect, okay? So later on, when we create our controller to handle this route, we're going to need to make sure that this is implemented, okay? So this is going to be the redirect URL, so we're going to save that, okay? Now that that's done, we should be able to generate the URL. Yeah, so it seems like they separated the URL generator. It used to be down here, but now it's not there anymore. That's okay. Reset. Okay, so now that we have the redirect URL, we're gonna go. What is going on? Okay, we're gonna go over here. We're gonna click on the necessary scopes that we need. So the scopes that we need are identify. You don't need email, okay, but I highly recommend you select that. I don't think email is really necessary, but you can take that if you want to. We do need guilds, however, that's very important. Okay, and other scopes that you might need probably are guilds.join if you want to add some kind of feature to allow, I think, the user to join the server. I think I'm not entirely sure because I've never used that before, but you can just select whichever scopes that you want. I'm not sure if we need the bot scope. I don't think that's necessary. Okay, once we have selected the scopes, we can just go ahead and select which scope this URL is for. So over here. Then we can go ahead and copy this generated URL. This is not required, but we will need this because we're going to actually have the user redirect to this URL. But actually, because we're going to be using Passport, it will take care of that for us. But for now, don't worry about this, okay? For now, let's just make sure we have this redirect URL. I just want to show you what happens if we... Let me actually do this. Why does this keep doing that? Let me copy this first. Let me go into my environment variable file, and let's just do this. Let's paste that your redirect URL first, and let me go ahead and show you what happens if I go to the URL generator, and if I generate that URL right there. So if I copy that, and if I go to the browser, you're going to see right over here that it's going to take us to Discord, right? This authorization page. And it's going to show you all of the scopes that the application will have access to. It's going to show you the username. It's going to be able to access the email address, know what servers are in. When you click authorize, it's going to take you to localhost port 3001. Okay, but we don't need to actually worry about this URL because Passport, which is a library, authentication library that we will use, will take care of that for us. Okay, so we're pretty much done with the environment variables. So now that we're done with the Discord credentials, what's next is we need to set up a couple basic ones. So let me do that real quick. Well, let me set up the port. So server settings. So we'll set up a port. So the port is going to be 3001 for the server. We're also going to need session settings as well. So this is going to, so sessions are going to allow us to persist users in our application. So whenever they are logging into our application, they will stay logged in, and anything that they do will know who is performing what. So when a user performs some kind of HTTP request, we will know who is performing that because it's going to send a cookie to our server, and we can deserialize that cookie and know who that user is. Okay, so we're going to need to have a cookie secret. So I'm going to set up a variable for this. This typically can just be a random string. If you want to make it more secure, you can use like a random hash. Just for development purpose, I'm just going to use a random string. So we'll do that. And I think that should be it for now. If there's anything else, if we forget anything, we'll just go back to this and add it. Doesn't really matter. Let's set up the MySQL settings. Okay. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and create a couple variables. So MySQL DB host, that's gonna be a local host. MySQL DB. So for me, I'm gonna be using localhost. If you happen to have a remote MySQL server, you would put the remote URL. Okay. The username. This is going to be my username that I'm going to be using to log in. The password. Let's see what else. The database name. So this has to be the same name as the database that we connected to for our Discord bot. I'm going to go ahead and grab that real quick. I forgot what it was called, actually. Let me go ahead and find that out real quick. It was called Discord Dashboard, it seems like. Yeah, so it was called Discord Dashboard. Okay, let's see. We have the host, username, password, database. I think that's all there is to it. I don't really think there's anything else. I feel like I'm missing one more, but I'm not too sure though. We're not gonna add the port here because the port is supposed to be a number, and the environment variable is going to be interpreted as a string, so there's really no point. Okay, once we have the server settings, I think this is pretty much all we'll need for now. All right, so we can go ahead and move on now. So the first thing that we'll do, now that we have all of our dependencies set up, or not dependencies, sorry, the environment variables, we also have our Discord credentials. What we're going to do is we're just going to kind of just replace a couple of stuff and then install a couple of other dependencies. So let's start off with this. We're going to go inside the main.ts file, so right over here. And before we do that, let me actually just run the application. Let's just make sure that everything works before we do anything else. So let's just start our application. Should be running on port. Yep, perfect. So it runs on port 3001. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do this because we've only created the environment variables in the env file. We haven't actually registered it yet or loaded it up into the application rather. So let's go into the app.module. .ts file, and we'll go ahead and import that config module. And it's going to allow us to call this for root method. Okay, we're going to call this, and then there's going to be a property inside the options called env file path, and we're going to set that to .env.development. Okay, so this is going to look for this file, and it's going to load up all of these environment variables for us. So now that it's loaded up, we can actually reference it. So for example, I'll reference process.env.port, and this should run on port 3001, and we'll do this. I'm gonna actually wrap this inside a try catch. Okay, and what I'll do is let's see. I'll just do console log running on port. There we go. All right, cool. So we should be able to see in the logs that it's running on port 3001. So that's working great. The environment variables are in fact working. Now that we have done that, we're going to need to install some dependencies in order for our application to work the way that we want it to work. And there's a lot of dependencies that we do need to set up, so I'm going to go through them one by one, so don't worry. Okay, so the first thing that we will set up are sessions. We're not really going to see much of this until we actually set up Passport. By this I mean we're not going to really see much of the output of these sessions until we set up Passport, but let's just set it up right now. So in order to set up sessions with NestJS, we do need to install a couple of dependencies, so let's do that. So we're going to first install express session. Okay. And then we're going to install, let's see, types express session because we're using TypeScript. Okay. So that should be pretty easy. And we should also double check the logs and make sure there's no errors. Okay. Cool. All right. So now that we have done that, if you've used Express before, registering Express session in NestJS is really just the same thing as how you do it in Express. So what we're going to do is we're going to reference app, call the use method, and we need to also import session. But if you have registered middleware before in Express, you can literally just register any middleware you want the same way in NestJS. Okay, this nestFactory.create method literally returns the same thing that you would get in an Express application, but it does have a bunch of other additional methods and properties too, so they're not exactly the same. But remember, NestJS was built on top of Express. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and import session from Express session like this. So import asterisk as session from Express session. Then we're gonna go ahead and call the session method, because this is really just a method, or a function I should say, and we're going to pass in a couple properties. So we're going to pass in the secret, so that's just going to be process.env. Let me see, what did I call it? I think it was cookie secret, right? So right now I'm referencing the cookie secret environment variable that we defined inside this .env.development file. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and set resave to false and then save uninitialized to false. These are mandatory properties that you should set false so you avoid any complications with your application. Yeah, save uninitialized pretty much will not generate. It'll only save to the session if you actually modify the session. So whenever we log in, it's going to actually keep the session for us. Okay, so we want to make sure we set this to false. And resave prevents the session from being resaved or updated randomly. It won't be forced to be saved again. Okay, but like I said, just make sure you set these two. We're then going to go ahead and set an age for our session. So pretty much this will pretty much tell the browser or the client when this cookie expires. Okay, so typically the behavior of browsers is when a cookie expires, it'll just automatically delete it. So when you try to make requests, the cookie will not be sent. The server also validates the cookie as well when it's received, which Passport takes care of that for us. Okay, combination of passport, express session, and the session store. We're gonna set the max age to, I think, 1 day. So this has to be a number in milliseconds. So let's do 60 times 1000, which is just going to be 60 seconds, right? Or that's just 60,000. So that's 1 minute. If we multiply that by 6, that's going to be 1 hour. And if we multiply that by 24, that'll be 1 day. So we'll just leave it as 1 day for now. Okay. I think that's pretty much all we need to worry about for now. We are going to need to set up a store, but we will do that in just a bit.